My name is Sarah Maniscalco Robinson. Today is November 13th, 2021, and I am in Lenox, Iowa, technically, address-wise. And I am interviewing Thomas Bradley. And in the room is also his wife, Debbie Bradley.
Yes.
Okay. Could you please tell me your first and last name?
Thomas Bradley.
Okay. And when and where you were born?
I was born in my aunt's house, my great aunt's house in Creston, Iowa.
And your birth date?
January 19th, 1943.
So you were born at home. That was pretty typical back then.
It was at a house,
Mm-hmm.
my great aunt's house.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I had 9 brothers and sisters. I'm the second oldest of 10. My oldest brother, Hub, has passed on just within the last year. There were 6 boys and 4 girls.
What kind of things would you guys do back then? Not to get in trouble, but what kind of things did kids do back in the 40s and 50s in Iowa?
Where we lived, and we lived on the farm. I lived in, there was 3 houses in this area that I lived in when I was young. Other than the first place where my mom and dad lived was out northeast of Kent. And then I guess, well, I don't know how many years later it was, they moved into a house a mile down the road west of here. And they started farming the property where we live now. And then after a period of time, they moved to another house that's about a mile across the road, across the ground from this house. And that was up until I was probably getting a year from starting school. And then my grandmother, Schiffer, and her husband, they lived in this house. When our family got to be greater than that little house we were living in, they swapped houses. And that's where I've been living ever since then, and lived here until I joined the military from here. And then we moved back up here quite a few years later in time.
Did you know anyone or have family members that were in the military before you joined the military?
I had an uncle that he was in the Korean War, and I think he's about the only one that I knew. I'm sure there was maybe some other relatives. I mean, I was in a big family, and my dad and his 3 brothers, one of them became a priest, and the other 2 had large families, and both of the other 2 had 8 children, and my dad was the youngest of the 4. So we had quite a few relatives on the Bradley side and the Baker side. 3 Bradley brothers married 3 Baker sisters. So we have all those relatives.
What kind of things would you do growing up to help out on the farm or work?
Chores. We were dependent on once we get old enough to do those types of things, we were responsible for doing the chores a lot, especially during the harvest season when the planting was being done and when the harvesting was being done. We expected to make sure that we did the chores, but we also started very young at helping with those with the crops, as far as getting the corn into the corn cribs and oats in the bins and all those things.
Do you think that later on in the military, your Iowa work ethic helped you be successful?
Oh yes, it sure did. When I joined the military, I was older. I was 21 years old when I joined the service, and I wasn't there in boot camp very long before I became the company commander of the company that I belonged to. And I would say that I guess all the work ethic and how I was brought up benefited me.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Lenox, Iowa, which is only 7 miles from here. I went to grade school to a country school, which is in the opposite corner of the road across the street.
Did I pass it on the way? It's a white...
You came down through, yes. And
through Creston?
If you came down through the old Kent, and yes, you passed our school, plat number 9.
Yes, I do remember looking at it because I had a sign on it.
Well, her and I put that sign up there, and she had a project that she worked on to try to put a sign, and a sign just like that one for every school that was in Union, here in Union County.
What year did you say you graduated high school?
I graduated in 1961, and then I attended 2 years of college in Kansas, where my brother had also gone to college in Kansas, Highland Junior College in Kansas. And
for what studies?
It was just general studies, but I majored in football, football and track. Yes. My brother was also in that school at the same time because he was only a year ahead of me in school, and his future wife was also going to school there, and she was in the same class he was.
So did you join the military or were you drafted?
I joined the military.
Okay, tell me the story about that.
I kind of had the idea that if I joined the service, that I would have maybe a better chance of getting educated in whatever I wanted to, to pick out the things that I thought maybe looked good and that I would join.
A little more control over your own destiny.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Well, when you decided to join, do you remember hearing about this thing called Vietnam?
Oh yeah, I knew about Vietnam. Wasn't really too much enthused about, joining the Army. But I really don't. I can't put a finger on why I chose the Navy, but I did choose the Navy, or hoped to join the Navy when I, while I was going to boot camp.
Could you tell me again what year you joined the military?
I joined, let's see, I graduated from junior college in '63, and I think it was shortly after that I spent some time working on the farm for one of the members of our church, and I worked there, what was it, three years, I think? 3 or 4 years, and then during the week I stayed at their house, and then they also went to church with my family in Lenox.
Even though you don't remember exactly why you joined the Navy, what kind of things did you like about it?
Everything that I read about the Navy, I felt that they had the better schools, I think, and that was one of the reasons why I joined, where I was able to pick out, you know, the schools that I might attend and that type of thing.
What was your job?
When
in the Navy.
In the Navy, okay.
Or your,
when I joined the Navy, I was the company commander of our recruit company, and then after I got there, I went to. Although I was selected.
I forgot to ask where you did your basic.
In San Diego.
Okay.
And I was able to select the school that I wanted to go to, and I went from San Diego to Long Beach, California as a primary school. I was supposed to be, they were supposed to set up some type of a program where I could get some basic training in electronics, because I was going to need that. But they didn't do a very good job of educating us any more than what we already had. So that was in Long Beach, and I was on Mine Squadron 11 at that time. So we didn't make any deployments on a minesweep boat or anything like that.
So what was your first duty assignment after you were done with your training?
Okay, I went from Long Beach to Treasure Island to my A school, which was Electronics A school, ETA school, because they had not developed any type of CTMA school for us. So I attended that in Treasure Island, and then from Treasure Island I went to Bear Island as more electronics in that school, and that's where I got my orders to the ship from Mare Island, and I got my ship or my education there in the solid state electronics, where everything up to that point had been just general electronics.
What is, for someone who doesn't know a lot about electronics, what does solid state electronics mean? That's
the miniature type components, instead of the big vacuum tubes that are in radios and things like that. And like looking at the radios that we have now, you can hold it in your hand. Back then, one of the radios that we used in the field that I was in was a big radio about that wide and about that high, and then numerous others, different sizes, and depending on what they were used for, whether it was, you know, low frequency or high frequency. The lower the frequency, the bigger the components were, and things of that nature.
Why was your job important?
I would say that the job that I had, repairing those pieces of equipment and everything, that was the basics for everybody else that was in the field that I was in. We had, there were 6 different fields in the CT community, and each one did their own thing. So I was a CTM, maintenance. So I fixed the equipment whenever it broke, and then the R branchers, they were collectors of the material, of the what was used the radios for, and I guess okay, there were ambranchers, T-A-M-O-R-N-I. The I's were interpreters, operators were the communicators, and the R branchers were the ones that collected the material. Which one did I forget? I think I got them all. T branchers also collected the material. O branchers were the operators. They were the communicators on and off the base.
Did you have the same consistent team? Every time that you did a mission, did you have the same buddies that you would pair up with, or would you guys rotate out through that?
Okay. My first duty station, first of all, after I completed my, they did not have a CTM A school, even though we went to become CTMs. We went to the electronics A school, and then I went from there to the ship as a CTM, and
they said you'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, I went all the way through the A school that the other ratings had for their A school, which was electronics. So I reported aboard the ship as a CTM 3. So that was an E4. And I made E5. I was an E5 when the ship was attacked, but I had made E5 while I was there. And I found out that once I went aboard the ship and extended my enlistment for a certain period of time, I could start collecting proficiency pay as a maintenance guy. So I extended my enlistment, and just kind of going back when the ship was hit, or XO was killed, I had extended my enlistment for 3 years. He signed my papers that I would re-enlist for 3 years, and so then kind of going along with that, he had signed my extension papers since he was killed, you know.
Were they valid? You're like, well, nobody would know.
Yeah, well, but I mean, the fact that I was able to draw the proficiency pay for the time since, you know, as soon as I signed those papers, I was getting an extra amount of money, so that was to my benefit.
So was the Liberty your first tour then, or the first ship you were on?
Yes, it was.
Okay, can you tell me how those tours work? How long you were supposed to be gone, that kind of thing?
Because of the type of duty the ship performed, I think I made I think four different deployments, and then each time we came back in, we had to go to the shipyards to maybe add something else that we needed for communications. So the ship that I was on, well, actually I went to another school. I went from Mare Island to a school in Fort Meade. And we were, I think I ended up with another school before the ship actually got attacked. But I went from I went to Norfolk, is where the ship was home ported, and of course Deb was able to go with me when we moved to Norfolk, and we were there when the ship was actually attacked later on, but I had taken on 2 other different pieces of equipment that I was trained on, and the what, three cruises?
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Lost track.
So you had mentioned earlier your ship's mission, but you didn't specifically say what it was. So could you tell me what ship you were on, what your mission was, to kind of set up the story?
You can
Yep.
tell it now, Tom.
The ship that I was on was the USS Liberty. That was my first ship, and actually the only ship that I ever served on. And we were responsible for collecting signals and researching other signals. And I was, I guess the first cruise that I was on, I was responsible for a piece of equipment that was pretty high frequency type piece of equipment. And as we progressed on to other cruises, I was responsible for a room of research of collecting, responsible for the equipment that collected signals from wherever, and so I was not responsible for listening to any type of that stuff. You know, we had, like I said, there's 6 branches of CTs, and so the area that I was in for most of the cruise was the yeah, everybody called them a spy. They were called a spy ship because of all the stuff that we collected. But I couldn't tell you any of the stuff that I listened to.
Talked to you about what they heard or saw. Everybody just kind of did their job.
Yes,
and
yes.
Didn't gossip about it later.
Yes. And I can tell you that if that had happened on my first cruise, I wouldn't be here telling you about it, because my position, or where I was at during the first cruise, was down in our maintenance shop. There was one guy down there, and the first cruise I was the only guy down there. And when the ship got hit, he was the only person down there. So
I'd like to ask you a few questions about sea life, living out on the ocean and what that's like as someone who's never been on a ship. So
right.
So from what I understand about ships, they have different classes.
Yes.
So what was the Liberty's class?
Okay. There were 5 ships that were like the one that I was on. The AGTR, Auxiliary Technical Research, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We were the 5th one. And what the reason they were different, the Auxiliary Technical Research is what we were directly involved in. Technical research, and we could pick up just about any type of signal that was developed. And
Fancy word for spy ship.
Yes, yes. They put on our ship. They put. We had to go back in one time to get a brand new piece of equipment installed on our ship, and I don't have it on one of those. It was called a big dish antenna. That we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from the moon to the ship. And we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could send a signal from our ship to the moon, and we could s and back to whoever could see the moon also.
And I can, if you show it to me, like show and tell, and point to it, I can look at it on the...
All right. Okay, it's not on this one. This was my piece of equipment, the first cruise I went on.
Okay, is that somewhat of like a satellite dish?
This one wasn't. This one was, it could receive signals that are from just about anywhere, as long as, but it was, you had to be able to move this antenna around this way and up and down, depending on the type of signal that it was drawing.
I don't have one.
The one from the moon.
Do you have one, Tom?
No.
Well, you're not going to produce one.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I like that one. That one tells...
Okay. The other one.
Is this one shot up?
Okay, that's it.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. This piece of equipment back here,
Okay. Now you
And-
come towards me a little bit more, and I will zoom in on it.
right here. This,
That's the
There-
one that goes to the moon?
yeah. That one was moon relay communications, and if we could, as long as we could see the moon and whoever we were communicating with could see the moon, it would go to the moon and then back to Earth, or back to us. So, and then the one that I started out working with was the one that was up here.
And I see that one also says CTR5, so that's the same ship that you just
G-
showed me.
GTR.
GTR, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I need to get my eyes checked.
It probably Auxiliary Technical Research Ship number 5. So that was this one. And we used to get some weird looks on. There was about 3 or 4 of us
You can put that down there.
that kind of hung together, and we would go out during the daytime and look to see if the moon was shining, or we were trying to get the antenna oriented towards the moon so that we could communicate with somebody. And we had so many of the ship's crew that would come by that were been taking some trash to dump on over the fantail. And there was one day we was out there and we were trying to locate the moon so that we could kind of get an idea of where the antenna had to be and to look for it. And they, "What are you guys doing?" I said, "We're trying to find the moon." They look at you like, "Oh, you guys are weird."
Hey, what's that saying about loose lips?
Yes.
None of your business
Yes.
what we're doing.
Yes. Loose lip sink ships.
You
Yes.
communicated with Washington, D.C. that way.
Yeah, we could.
Um,
There was certain times where there was 2 channels, and we could communicate with somebody back in the States, and sit there and listen to the World Series or something like that. So anyway,
but never for personal gain, right?
no.
So I'd like to learn a little bit more about the living quarters, bunks, what kind of food you had, but most importantly, I'd like to hear how you took to sea life as far as, did you have good sea legs, or were you sick at all?
I think the very first cruise I went on, I got a little sick, but the CTs had their own space area. The CTs and the R branchers, they're the communicators, and then the ship's company was in the forward part of the ship. So they kind of thought we had better quarters than they had, but quarters I think were pretty much the same.
What were your quarters like?
I had a bunk that was probably about with my bunk and the area under it was about like this. It was big and long enough for anybody that's real tall. They could sleep in those. And our uniforms and things we had were underneath the mattress. We'd lift that up, and then we had a drawer in there that was we could lock to safeguard anything that we thought was valuable enough that somebody might want to borrow it also. So
I think it would be beneficial to be not 6'4".
Probably not.
In that situation.
Probably not. It'd probably be just about far enough.
So how about food? What kind of food would they give you?
We all ate the same thing because the galley was in between the two berthing compartments. And I can't even think of anything that they prepared that was not edible. I thought they did a pretty good job of feeding us good food.
Anything that you had a lot of?
I can't mention anything that I can think of
Eggs.
that was a lot. Well, eggs were
Potatoes.
breakfast.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah.
So you weren't too picky of an eater. That's what you're saying.
I wasn't.
It got the job done.
I wasn't.
Okay.
Right.
Were you able to keep in contact with back home in any way?
With letters, I think we did a pretty good job of communicating back and forth with my family back home and Deb back in the States.
What was Debbie doing while you were in the service? Did she stay at the farm?
No, she stayed in the quarters that we lived in Norfolk,
Yeah.
and was able to go with me from day one. So
Did you guys have any kids yet when you had left?
we didn't have any kids when we first started out. But,
So you were a good husband. You wrote letters, and she
Yes.
wrote letters.
yes.
How about care packages? Would you receive?
I think anything that I purchased, like for her, I think I kept that until we got back in port. Everything else was, just regular mails, and of course we always look forward to getting in port when we would get mail.
Did they have any or bring in any sort of entertainment for you onto the ship, or did you have to wait till you were?
I don't think there was no entertainment brought onto our ship. Maybe some of those bigger ships, they might be able to, have a big group, a carrier or something like that, or the big destroyers or anything, but our ship was pretty compact.
What would you do to pass the time when you weren't on duty then?
We had a racetrack set up down in our shop. We were the lowest deck on the ship where there were people. Everybody else was above that, and we had a race car track, little race cars.
Mm-hmm. Like the little metal ones?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We had those. We had ones that we'd use to jump so you could make their car go the farthest, and that was usually in our maintenance shop.
That seems like nice, innocent fun.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we would, depending on the night, we might spend some time up on the deck, moonlit night, just seeing what's going on up there.
So were you allowed to move pretty freely throughout the ship if you wanted to go up to the deck?
Oh yes. The I don't think there was as much where we went from our spaces in the back. You didn't go up to the forward spaces where the ship's company would be. And that's basically how we operated. And of course, you know, if there was mingling, that would usually be done on the mess decks, you know, at night or, you know, during meal time.
About how many people would be on the ship?
Well, over probably about 300 and so.
That is actually pretty small for a ship. You hear the ones
Yes.
that hold thousands.
Yes.
Before we start talking about the day that we're going to talk about, are there any other stories, anecdotal stories about your time in service that you'd like to tell me about?
I think probably, like I said initially, that I had extended, so I owed the Navy 7 years because I had my 4-year original enlistment. Then I extended that for 3. Then I started drawing proficiency pay, and I think from there on, everything was just, well, we did our job.
So did you do the 7 years or did you do the 4 years?
I was due to start the 4 years when, or the 3 years when the ship got hit. The executive officer was killed, and he's the one that signed my extension papers.
Okay.
So then they had to figure out, you know, well, what are they going to do this guy? Because they posted the list of the people that were going to get transferred off the ship back to Norfolk. And I went by there, and my name was on that first list. Well, this is good. So I come by there a few days later, and my name's crossed off, and I'm on the last list that leaves the ship. I went down to the personnel office. What is going on here? They said, well, we have to re-enlist you before you leave the ship. And so, well, I said, okay, you know, I can go along with that. So that's why I didn't get to go right away. And that re-enlisting canceled the extension that I had, and I re-enlisted for 6 years at that point because I re-enlisted under a special program to get a school. So they called it STAR program, Selective Training and Re-enlistment. So I selected my school and all that, and I forget now who actually re-enlisted me, but anyway, what I did was I canceled that extension that I had. So my new enlistment was six years from that day, you know, whenever I re-enlisted. And I got a pretty decent bonus for that. Yeah. And at one point, I was ready to cash that check when we got to New York, and they were having trouble getting hold of a bus or something to get us down to Norfolk. And I said, hey, I got this re-enlistment check here. I'll cash that check, and we can use that and pay for the bus from Norfolk down, or from wherever we were at. I think we flew into New York. From there down to Norfolk.
I hope you didn't.
No, I didn't. No, they found money to do it. Yes.
I don't think Debbie would have been really happy if you'd spent that check all in one spot.
Yeah, right.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I would have. I'd been very happy.
Yeah. Because that, you know, that wasn't the total bonus that I received. You know, it was just a portion of it. So it wasn't like I was getting rid of the whole thing.
So I'd like for you to tell me the story of the day that the Liberty was attacked.
Okay. I'll start with a general quarters that we were practicing when
And what that means,
that
general
day.
quarters.
General quarters is where you go in case of attack or whatever. So we were at general quarters. The captain mentioned where he saw oil fields probably over on the other side of the Mediterranean or whoever whoever they were having battles with. And
It was the Arab-Israeli 6-day war.
yeah,
Oh, can you tell me that?
yes, that happened. That day was during, or part of it was during the Arab-Israeli 6-day war.
And what year was that?
1967.
1967.
Okay.
And
And what body of water were you in at that
we were in the Eastern Mediterranean. We used to. The main places where our ship would go was all along this part of Africa.
Can you turn it towards me just a there we go, perfect.
There.
Yep.
And I'm thinking it was this one, Luanda, Angola, we were in, and we had our postal clerk. He said one time when we were having lunch, and he says, "I've been on this ship so long, I'll probably die on this ship." He was one of the people that was killed, and of course died on the ship. So, but anyway, we were somewhere, probably out in here. We weren't, too close, but we were in about as close as we could probably be along the west coast of Africa. And we had, like, I think there was 5 or 6 different ports that we pulled into at different times. Luanda, Angola was one of them, and I think it might have even been Luanda, where we were in port, and we had reveille early in the morning. It was like, if we normally got up at 6, it was like 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and reveille, all hands, make preparations to get underway. And we thought, wait a minute, why are we getting underway? Must be something going on somewhere. So we did get underway, and that was when I decided that I was going to go up to the main deck, and because the captain had mentioned that he could see oil fields over there in the that he could see that from the ship. So I was going to go take a look at these battlefields, and that was when things started for us. We had already been underway, because we got underway and was actually moving on. I don't know where we were going, but we left the port that we were in. And after the captain mentioned that he could see these oil fields, I decided I wanted to go up and look at them. Look and see where these oil fields that he's looking at, that were on fire or something. So this may be a little bit earlier in your story, but I went up to the main deck, and I started walking down the main deck on the side of the ship, and I heard this noise. It sounded like the bosun mate was, and people that were working on the deck would use chipping hammers or something, and it sounded to me like they were using an air chipping hammer. And of course I could hear that pounding the metal and everything, and so I figured, hey, they're using chipping hammer to get the paint off of it, and then they're going to paint it. So I proceeded on to my general quarter station, and then we were put into general quarters for that, and that was the first time that I was down there at my general quarter station, and I had one piece of equipment that I was responsible for, and I got an itch in my back, so I reached back there to scratch my back and pulled it back, and had blood all over my hand. Some of that shrapnel that they were shooting with their planes, a piece of that had hit me in the back, and it was bleeding. Of course, I didn't even, I didn't even feel it because of, I was running to get to my general quarters station. So, and that was the only thing that I could think of that happened, was a piece of that shrapnel that they were shooting. A piece of it hit me in the back and made me bleed, but it wasn't, it didn't last long. I never went to sick bay to have it looked at, which, they basically told us we should. But I didn't go to sick bay. I'd got a Purple Heart for it, and another. I'm glad now that I didn't, because, well, I'll tell another story regarding that thing in my back. I was stationed in Winter Harbor, Maine, and I was due to re-enlist. And I had been having a little problem with my back, just whatever, I don't know. So I went to sick bay
For about 5 or 6 years.
for my re-enlistment, and I told the re-enlisting officer, the doctor that did my re-enlistment physical, I told him about this shot that I had got hit in the back when the planes come over, and she x-rayed my back, where I told her that I had the problem with, and she didn't find anything. My back started feeling okay. It never bothered me since. I don't know whether it was all, my stupid head or something. But I had 2 minors like that. The other one was when the torpedo hit. Something grazed me right across here on one of my eyes. And when it took my hat off, I could see blood on it. But that one, it wasn't serious enough for me to go medical.
Did the attacks, first of all, what was the date of the attack?
June 8th.
Okay, and who was it that was attacking your ship?
Israel.
Did it all happen on one day, or did
Yes.
it last a while?
No, it was just that one day.
Okay. So you were in general quarters. When
Yes.
you were up on the deck, did you see anything or hear anything? Like any planes going overhead?
No.
Or any other ships
because
where the torpedo would have come from?
When I was up on the deck, I was on the outside. I was walking along the side of the ship. It'd be like where I would have been walking would have been on the opposite side of the ship, but I was actually coming across this area right here. Yeah, I was going this way, and that was where I was at when that piece of shrapnel or whatever it was that the planes were flying were shooting at us at that time. That was the first time, and then the second one, I don't know when I got that.
But it was later that same day.
It was later that same day. Well, I don't know if it was when the torpedo actually hit. something got me just right above my eyebrow. And everybody, when we got back to the States, and they said, well, you probably was drinking coffee,
How did you know that a torpedo had hit?
By then, it was very obvious that a torpedo hit because, well, I'll tell you that when the torpedo hit and where it hit, after everything was all dead and said and done with, where I was standing, I could look out the side of the ship. And when I left the space that I was in, I was walking in water up to my knees, and that.
Take your time.
The fact that I'm acting that way about my hip, that got me to do a medical procedure in Mount Air compared to one in Des Moines, because I had trouble explaining that to the doctor I was with down in Mount Air here, and he told the doctor that I was supposed to go see in Des Moines what had happened, and they went along with it, and so I didn't have to go to Des Moines for that procedure. I was able to do it in Mount Air, which they could do it. So there's just different times when I want to tell somebody something about the attack that I get to the point where I can't.
Well, it'd be a scary day.
Yes.
Out in the middle of the
ocean.
It
was. Yes.
It does make it easy to joke about it a little bit, though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Because we thought the way that the ship was, 25 by 39 feet is how big the hole was, and then it started out up on the top, like this, and then went like that. And like I said, the space that the bottom space that we had, if that had been my first cruise, I wouldn't be here talking about it, because the main blast was inside the shop where I worked the first cruise that I was on. That was my general quarters station, and that was the only way that we knew that there was that one guy down there, and it took us a long time before we found him. And he was in the shop where when the torpedo blast hit, it just opened up everything like that, and then we was able to help one of the sister, was it, of Margraf?
Yeah, Dwayne Margraf.
Yeah. He was the only one down there in the shop, and of course, when the torpedo hit, it went like that, and most of it went this way, and he was piled up in all this rubble that was in our shop. And when we had our first reunion in Washington, D.C., we happened to be at the table with this guy's sister, and was able to tell her.
I bet that was pretty special for her to find out.
Yes.
The story.
Yes.
Put some closure to it.
Yes, it was, and it was just fortunate, I guess, that we were supposed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
She came specifically to the reunion to find out what happened to her brother.
And
Yes.
you were
And
previously...
you got to tell her that you were the one that went looking for him, dug through the rubble, and you didn't quit until you found him because
Yes.
you knew he was under there.
Because you had previously had that as your general quarter, so you knew your way around that
Oh, yes.
specific
Yes.
area of
Yes.
the ship.
And it was probably only a room about this big, and they just took the whole thing and just piled it up into the corner.
So I know you guys took on water, but she stayed afloat.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So what kind of things did you guys have to do in order to not sink?
Well, you can see from this how far the ship went over.
So that's all. What is that we're looking at? That
This
dark?
is the oil and stuff that was in the ship,
And it went
and
down.
and it went down from the ship was laying like this, and when they leveled it out a little bit, then you can see where the oil line came up on the side of the
Did you say
ship.
you were in that picture somewhere?
I think.
Or was it the other side?
Well, it's the other side, but it's the same picture.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's just labeled on the other side.
Yeah. It was, I think it was me right here. I was this guy right here.
That real still for me for 1 minute. Let me zoom in. Okay, point to it for me one more time.
Right there.
Okay, kind of looking down.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
And I think this was probably when we were pulling into the dry dock
Okay.
to let all the water out of it and everything. And if you look at this, oil and things like that rise to the top of the water. So when they pulled into dry dock and started letting the water out of it, oil just covered everything. The clothes that we were wearing to clean up.
And you have that picture. Is that the other picture? Is that
Yes.
oil that's on your faces in that picture?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said you're in this picture also?
I'm that guy right there.
Kind of hiding in the back, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm just leaning up against the bulkhead because this is a solid bulkhead
Okay.
here.
Yep, just hold that up for me. Give me 1 second to zoom out. And all that is just oil from...
Yes.
and then tell me, you said that, what are you guys taking a break from in that photo?
Well, we're taking a break from being down there because you can see everybody has a soda or something here, and we're taking a break. And I think this was the one that we were at when one of those admirals came aboard and did his inspection and all that, and stepped into one of those and told us that we didn't need to talk to anybody about this. If you do, it could be prison or maybe even worse.
Why do you think he said that?
Try to get us to shut up so we wouldn't tell anybody.
Yeah, but now after the fact, now that you're an adult, why do you think he told you politically?
Because they were, I guess, in sympathy with President Johnson, who called back the planes that were dispatched to help our ship, and he had them called back to the carriers. Yes.
Do you know why?
Because he basically said something to the effect that, that Israel is our friend, and I don't know what all.
An ally.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to start.
Didn't want to start anything. Yeah. So he had them called back.
Do you know how many crew members were lost that day?
Well, that at this point, we didn't know how many were down in the spaces, because this whole area where this hit was the spaces that were the CTs, the cryptologic people. where they worked. There was one person in the compartment ahead of the one that I was in. We'll say that this is this wall over here was the wall between the space that we were in and the communication space, which was on the other side of that wall. There was actually only one person made it out of that space alive, only because he had gotten hit with a bullet, one of the bullets that had been shot by the torpedo boats, because they fired guns at him. I mean, they fired guns at us. And he had gotten hit in the leg or foot, I believe it was, by one of those shells that penetrated the side of the ship and hit him. So he was actually, he had come out of the space and was on his way up out of the space where I was, and on his way to sick bay to get treated. And like I told you before, I was walking in water when I started to get out of the space. I was going to walk from where I was. Yeah, you couldn't see anything, but I knew where I was at, that I could walk across this room to that wall right there, and then here was a door that would have been like that door, and I could get to this wall. I would feel my way across there, make it to the door, and then on the other side of that wall was a ladder that led out of that space up like that. And I started, stumbling over everything and all that.
Yeah, why was it so dark?
There was no light. They got rid of they shot the lights out. And
there's no windows.
And there's no windows. No. It was just,
Sea level.
it's like this whole room here. If it was nighttime and you turn off locks, you don't know where. So I was able to, make it across that room, stumbling over everything that I could think of. And I knew there was a wall there that I could go and find that wall. And what I found out later, all the stuff that I was stumbling over was that wall. And the first thing I ran into was that ladder. So I was able to then know that in order to get out of the space, then the ladder was still intact. It was not blown down or anything like that. It was still in that space. So that was then how I got out of that space. I made it up that space and met that other guy that was trying to get to sick bay. I helped carry him partial way to sick bay, and then went on up to the mess decks, which is where the sick bay was being held, and then I went on out to I went up one more deck to outside, and that was where the postal clerk was receiving medical attention, and he ended up dying.
Was it that something hit the mail room? Was he in the mail room when it happened? Or?
I would say probably that he wasn't in the mail room, because there wouldn't have been any. He probably had a general quarter station that was not associated with being in the mail room, but he was in a space where he got hit pretty bad. And
the space where you had water up to your knees, is that as high as the water went?
No.
Or if you had waited there, it would have gotten higher?
That compartment completely flooded.
So you were wise to evacuate that area?
Yes. There was a lot of people that, like I said, the space on that side of the wall where all the people that were communicators, and any of the maintenance guys that were in there. And there was only that one person made it out of there alive. And then on that side of the ship, there was probably maybe only 2 or 3 of the people that was, where their general quarters station was on that side of the ship. There was only about 2 or 3 guys that made it out of that side of the ship.
Did you ever find out, even all these years later, what instigated the attack?
I think, and I'm just, you know, reading some of the books and things, that the Israelis did not want us to know what they were doing. And so they were going to wipe us out. And that's, I think, what most of the people that was on the ship knew, that that's what happened. And like I said, there was planes that were sent to our assistance, and Johnson had them called back.
How did you end up being done with it? How did you get away?
First of all, we were told that we were told that we weren't supposed to talk to anybody about it and all that, and you know, there was an admiral that came and talked to us at that time, but I just don't think they probably went along with, you know, not wanting the world to know what it was all about. That they wanted us to be quiet.
You sat there all night long and no one came.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't have anybody. Nobody, no other ship came to our protection until the next morning.
Were you guys, like, were your engines incapacitated also, so you couldn't go anywhere?
No, the blast was just forward of the engine room, and otherwise, yeah, if it had got the engine room, we would have probably gone down.
And then you had mentioned something earlier about your follow-on duty stations of the entire crew. Can you tell me that story?
You mean just where everybody went?
Yeah, yeah. It seems like
they got scattered. I don't think there was any two that of the crew that was on the ship that got stationed together, and I think I was one of those that didn't happen, because the division chief my division chief was Stan White, and he was stationed in Morocco, and we got sent to Morocco after I finished. Probably the thing that helped me from not getting stationed there was because I had re-enlisted for ET, Electronic Technician B School. And so I was in that B School for about a year before I got transferred anywhere, and I got sent to another school down in Texas for our ship's clock, or any of the duty station's clock, and then to Morocco, and that's where my division chief on the ship was stationed. Yeah, and yeah, he left pretty quickly after that.
How many years did you spend in the military altogether?
27 and a half years.
Okay. That's a lot of stories. We could go on for another hour.
Yes.
What was your highest rank achieved?
E9.
Okay. What is that called in the Navy?
Master Chief Petty Officer.
Okay.
And I was the command master chief at 2 different stations. I was stationed in Scotland as a master chief, but I wasn't the command master chief. I thought I was going to get to go there as the command master chief, but I didn't get that. And then Scotland, we went to Adak, Alaska. And I went there as the Command Master Chief.
Yeah, I've been there just once, and I was only there for 3
We did 2 tours on Adak, and thoroughly enjoyed both of them.
So I know that you're going to have a lot of answers for this one, but what kind of life lessons did you learn from being in the military?
If you're in a position where you're not the boss and you're one of the people that works, if you're told to do something, do it. You know, I can't think of anything that I did while I was in the military that I was told to do that I didn't cooperate or didn't do it because I didn't want to or whatever.
What would you say or advice would you give to a young person who's considering joining the military?
Basically just what I said. If you're told to do something, do it. And if you object to it, maybe you might have some reason why you didn't want to or shouldn't. Then maybe you need to let somebody know. But for the most part, if you're told to do something, do it.
Are you proud of your service, and why?
Because of the success I had in the military. My last 2 commands, I was the Command Master Chief, the top E9 at the duty station. Was ADAC and then Pensacola, Florida.
So you've seen the world.
A lot of it, yes.
What do you think was one of the highlights of something that you saw that you thought was amazing on this earth?
I think one of the duties, or not really the duties I had, but I talked about the one piece of equipment that we were associated with, where if we could see the moon, they could communicate with anybody else that saw the moon. I think that would be amazing. One of the other things was the school I went to in Texas was a clock school, and all the people at every one of the bases used the same clock, same type of clock. And when we went to Morocco, and I was in the maintenance shop, and at one time, just about every time this one duty section came on watch, the clock had to be changed. And we finally found out what happened was one of the young whippersnappers went to the Navy Exchange and bought himself a wristwatch that was close to such and such a time. And so when he came on watch, the clock's not right. And he would ask that the clock be changed. And after a certain period of time, we found out that it happened when this one duty section, whenever they had the watch, the clock would have to be changed. And of course, I had to go change it. And then we find out that what happened was that this one particular
Probably some
sailor,
young officer.
no, it wasn't an officer, it was one of the junior guys. He got to his division chief or whatever it was and had him change the clock.
Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about or stories you wanted to tell me that I didn't think to ask?
I really can't think of anything that, what do you think what do I need to tell her?
I know that's
That your boys thought that your military lifestyle was wonderful and they had the time of their lives at every duty station.
Yeah. Yeah. And my second oldest son, he's retired from the Marine Corps, and I have another one of our nephews. He's in the Coast Guard.
No, that's your grandson. You have two grandsons.
Two grandsons, and one's in the Coast Guard and one's in the Air Force.
And then we lost a daughter.
Yeah. Our oldest daughter, we were stationed in Pensacola. We were at a Halloween party, and she got run over by a hayride. She fell off, or she got pulled off, I guess, and run over by a trailer. Accident. And she's buried in Barrancas National Cemetery in Pensacola, so obviously that's where we're going to be buried.
So it's a national cemetery.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
veterans. Wow, I didn't know that they did children.
Well, they did because I mean if we had been in Pensacola, it had been very easy for her to be buried there. But when we were stationed in Pensacola when it happened, and because she was a dependent, we were able to have her buried in the National Cemetery in Pensacola.
So what year did you retire?
Let's see. I'll tell you.
I can't. What was the question?
When did
Retirement year.
what day did I retire?
Oh, I'll have to go look. January 1st, 1991.
Probably,
Sound
yeah.
good?
That sounds good enough.
Sounds
Yeah.
close to me.
You enlisted in June of 1964.
Yeah.
Well, unless you have anything else, I'm going to stop recording.
I don't have anything else that I can think of right now. Probably